Good morning, my brothers and sisters. Welcome to episode number 45 in the book of Hebrews. Today's title is We All Live in Jericho. We're referring to the Old Testament city of Jericho, about 20 miles east of Jerusalem. Let me read the single verse for today that we're going to think about. This is from Hebrews chapter 11, and this is verse number 30. By faith, the walls of Jericho fell down after they had been encircled for 7 days. Now, Jericho is a real city. Ancient Jericho, it was a real city, and it demonstrates an aspect of faith, and it's also going to demonstrate an aspect of justice today in today's story. So the big picture is we're in an era where God is giving land to Israel. This is documented in the book of Joshua. He's giving land to the nation of Israel. He's giving the land of Israel to Israel. The only problem is there's people living there, and the people of Israel had to obey and take the land. So imagine this magnificent walled city, and Israel is outside the wall, and inside the wall, shut up in the wall, where it says that no one went out and no one went in. Why is that? Well, because there's a king inside the city and mighty men of valor. And outside the wall, there's this promise from God. See, I have given you Jericho into your hand. See, I have given Jericho into your hand is the Lord's promise to Joshua and the people of God. So we've been on this study of faith in Hebrews chapter 11, and faith is in trusting the person of God before the promises of God are evident, and it's trusting in the character of God before there's this clarity of circumstance. And today there's this new wrinkle that the people of Israel demonstrate as they march around the city for 7 days, and that is obedience. It's obedience in the meantime. So faith is the obedience to the commands of God while you wait for what he's promised. And it's obeying this command to see what God will give you. So faith is obeying, write this down, faith is obeying the commands you know about before you receive the promises that you only have heard about. So Jericho does that, or Israel does that with regards to Jericho. The promise is, I'm going to give you Jericho, or I have given it into your hands, and in the meantime, I'm going to have you march around blowing trumpets for 7 days, and on the seventh day they shout, the walls come down, and they do what the Lord says, which is devote everything to destruction. So that's the second point I want to get to, is that we all live in Jericho, and that Jericho is going to get what it deserves. So think about this. So the Lord is making this nation, and Jericho is going to get what it's deserved. That is, it's going to be devoted to destruction, and all life forms inside of it are going to get destroyed. So their just punishment. So they think, wow, this is really a violent thing, and Jericho gets destroyed. Well, it gets their just punishment for unatoned sinfulness, which is going to cost every life. So the just and holy punishment for sin is and has always been life. Now, sometimes it's a substitutional life in a sacrifice in the temple, goats and bulls and rams, etc. And then sometimes it's the personal life of the sinner. And here, Jericho is actually going to get both. So the same destruction that will befall every human who doesn't take the rescue that God gives. So Jericho is this horrible, unforgettable, unpalatable, not nice, and really violent example. So you may say, wow, this is so unpalatable. Well, I agree. And guess what? God agrees as well. I think one of the most unpalatable aspects of Christianity is justice, which is, hey, there's a penalty for sin, and you're on the hook for it. So one of the points today is that every city is Jericho, and not just the crazy sinful cities, the sin city of Las Vegas or maybe New York or something. I'm talking about Omaha. I'm talking about Indianapolis, and I'm talking about the city that you are listening to. So Jesus had to come and suffer really violently to take the sins of idolatry and unholiness and impurity for all the Jerichos out there, which is, of course, is every city, every nation, every person. So the violence that is done to Jericho is the violence that is done to Jesus here. So who lives in Jericho today? Who lives in Sid City? Whose soul isn't racked with sin and rebellion and idolatry? Who hasn't walled off their city from the people of God and the influence of God? Well, it's everybody. So who has their life on deposit, on the line, as a just penalty for falling short of the holiness of God? Again, it's everybody. We're all Jericho. We all live in Jericho or have lived in Jericho. So John 3:16 is a great passage. God so loved the world. Well, read on. Verse 18 says, whoever believes in him is not condemned. That's the good news of the gospel. But whoever does not believe is condemned already. In other words, they already live in Jericho because he has not believed in the name of the only Son of God. So all of us, without Jesus, live in Jericho. So Jericho, this is unpalatable, get what it deserves. And people get what they deserve. We all are going to get justice. We're all going to pay with our life and maybe every life form. So you may said, well, but God, how can I, who live in the Jericho of today, get out of this mess? How can I get out of my condemnation? How can I maybe help those in my family and relatives and people near me? How can I help them get rescued? Well, here's the thing, is I didn't tell you the whole story today. I didn't tell you of the rescue out of Jericho. I didn't tell you of the mercy that is poured down. I didn't tell you that God chooses the best example of being the worst example. He picks someone who has made a repeated wrong decision about sex, about prostitution specifically, paying for sex, to illustrate this reality of mercy and the reality of grace. To hear the second part of the story, you have to come back tomorrow and hear about Rahab, the prostitute, who gets saved out of Jericho. Come back tomorrow. See you then.